On August 5, 2005, in Daegu, South Korea, 28-year-old Lee Sunup entered a local internet cafe, ordered a soda, and logged into StarCraft and began playing. Hours slowly turned into days as he stayed glued to the screen. He rarely moved from his chair, taking only short breaks for the toilet. By the second night, he had been at the keyboard for nearly 50 hours, his posture sagging and eyes bloodshot, yet he kept clicking. The manager urged him to rest, but Lee shook his head and loaded another match. At dawn on the third day, he suddenly collapsed, and paramedics found him unresponsive. Doctors confirmed he had suffered cardiac arrest from extreme exhaustion, dehydration, and blood clotting due to prolonged immobility. He was pronounced dead shortly after arrival. Less than 2 years later, a remarkably similar tragedy occurred in Guangha, China. On February 1, 2007, a 26-year-old man walked into an internet cafe, sat down, and opened World of Warcraft, settling in for what would become a marathon session. For 3 straight days, he remained in the exact same seat, his eyes fixed on the screen and his fingers steady on the mouse. Witnesses said he barely spoke to anyone, pausing only briefly to eat instant noodles or take quick toilet breaks. By the third day, his movements slowed significantly. At 10 a.m., he suddenly slumped forward onto the desk. Other customers assumed he had fallen asleep, but staff soon found his body completely limp. He had no pulse on arrival, and doctors declared him dead of cardiac arrest linked to exhaustion and dehydration. In Wuhan, China, on November 14, 2012, another young life was cut short by a marathon session. A 23-year-old man, a regular customer at a local internet cafe, sat down at a terminal and logged into League of Legends. He remained in his seat for nearly 23 hours without a single pause. Other patrons noticed him shifting uncomfortably and rubbing his chest, but he refused to stop playing. By 3 p.m., he slumped back in his chair, his arms falling to his sides as the mouse slipped from his hand.
Staff rushed over to find him unresponsive, and he was declared dead shortly after reaching the hospital. Medical staff attributed the death to cardiac arrest brought on by fatigue, dehydration, and prolonged immobility. The devastating pattern struck again on July 19, 2015, in Pampanga, the Philippines. A 17-year-old boy entered an internet cafe, logged into Minecraft, and began a marathon session that would last almost 3 straight days. He took only brief naps, ate little, and barely moved from his chair. On the third day, as he leaned forward to type, his body went limp and he collapsed onto the keys. His friends called for help and cafe staff attempted first aid, but paramedics pronounced him dead at the scene. Local doctors later cited cardiac failure linked to severe exhaustion and dehydration after his prolonged, continuous gaming session. When augmented reality games took the world by storm, they brought virtual elements into real-world environments, sometimes with lethal results. On September 7, 2016, in Tokushima Prefecture, Japan, 2 men aged 21 and 22 were playing Pokemon Go along a coastal path. The GPS-based game had become a global sensation only weeks earlier. That afternoon, they walked the coast, staring intently at their screens. As they walked, the trail narrowed near a steep cliff overlooking the sea. Failing to notice the edge, both fell more than 65 feet. Nearby witnesses immediately called for help. One man survived with serious injuries, while the other was found unresponsive at the cliff's base and later declared dead. Just weeks before that cliff tragedy, on August 23, 2016, another fatal Pokemon Go incident occurred in Tokushima Prefecture. A 39-year-old truck driver was operating his vehicle on a rural road while playing the mobile game behind the wheel. Distracted by the game, he failed to see 2 women crossing at a railway intersection and struck them both without ever braking. A 72-year-old woman died instantly at the scene, and a 60-year-old woman was rushed to the hospital with critical injuries, passing away shortly after arrival. Police arrested the driver at the scene, and he admitted he had been playing the game while driving. Prosecutors charged him with dangerous driving resulting in death, and Niantic later added in-app warnings against playing while driving. On July 9, 2017, in Iloilo City, the Philippines, a 12-year-old boy was playing Pokemon Go with his friends. While searching for digital creatures, they wandered near a construction site. Still holding his phone, the boy climbed onto a metal structure close to overhead power lines. He lost his balance, reached out, and his hand touched a live cable. A loud electrical crack followed, and he collapsed instantly to the ground. His friends screamed for help, and nearby bystanders rushed over, but emergency responders arrived to find no signs of life, and he was pronounced dead from electrocution. Authorities confirmed he had been so distracted by the game that he wandered into a highly dangerous area. Physical hazards are not confined to mobile screens. They are also present in fully immersive home setups. On December 21, 2017, in Moscow, Russia, a 44-year-old man was using a virtual reality headset at home. Completely immersed in his game, he moved through his apartment, unaware of the physical obstacles around him.
Investigators later determined he had stumbled while playing and crashed into a glass table, which shattered and sliced deep into his body. Because he was alone in the apartment, he was unable to call anyone for help. Neighbors heard a crash but did not check on him. Hours later, family found him bled to death from wounds to his head and neck. Moscow authorities confirmed the accident as one of the first fatalities linked to VR use.
Physical exertion in gaming can also take a sudden and unpredictable toll on the body. On December 28, 2009, 25-year-old Tim Ease from Sittingbourne, Kent in the United Kingdom was excited to try out the Nintendo Wii Fit console he had received as a Christmas present. On Boxing Day, he began using the console's fitness programs, exercising intensely for hours on the balance board and aerobic minigames. That evening, after completing a workout, Tim complained of chest pains and shortness of breath. His mother urged him to rest, but minutes later, he collapsed in the living room. Despite immediate resuscitation attempts by paramedics, he could not be revived. An inquest found he had suffered a sudden cardiac arrhythmia, which doctors noted can, in rare cases, be triggered by strenuous physical exertion. It was widely reported in the UK as the first known death linked to Wii Fit activity. Online competition can sometimes breed extreme real-world hostility. On February 26, 2010, in Chongqing, China, two men in their 20s were sitting in an internet cafe playing Counter-Strike. They began to argue over strategy and exchange insults. Witnesses said the argument grew heated, loud enough to draw attention across the room.
One man stood up and pushed the other. Staff separated them briefly, but the fight resumed outside, where the aggressor stabbed his opponent repeatedly in the chest and abdomen. The victim collapsed on the pavement and died before paramedics arrived. Police quickly arrested the attacker, who admitted losing his temper, and authorities used the case to highlight rising violence connected to online gaming.
In Shanghai, China, on March 29, 2005, a dispute over virtual property escalated into real-world murder. Two friends, Chu Changyi and Zhu Chaoyan, regularly played Lineage 2, and Chu had loaned Zhu a powerful virtual sword known as the Dragon Saber. Weeks later, however, Zhu sold the virtual weapon for 7,200 yen without Chu's permission. Furious, Chu confronted Zhu and demanded its return, and when Zhu refused, he reported the theft to police. Chinese law did not yet recognize virtual property as a real asset, so no charges were filed. That evening, Chu confronted Zhu in person. The argument turned violent, and Chu stabbed him repeatedly. Zhu died of his wounds, and Chu was convicted of murder in June 2005 and sentenced to life imprisonment. Perhaps one of the most tragic examples of an online dispute turning fatal occurred on December 28, 2017, in the United States. Two Call of Duty players got into an online argument over a wagered match worth just $150. One of the players, Casey Viner, asked fellow gamer Tyler Barreras to swat his opponent, a dangerous prank involving a fake emergency call to police. Barreras phoned in a fabricated hostage situation in Wichita, Kansas, but gave the wrong address, which belonged to 28-year-old Andrew Finch, uninvolved in the dispute. Police surrounded Finch's home, and when he opened the door and moved unexpectedly, an officer fired a fatal shot in front of his family. Batiris was later sentenced to 20 years in prison, while Viner received a shorter sentence. Some tragedies occur when players attempt to mimic game mechanics in the real world. On August 3, 2008, in Bangkok, Thailand, an 18-year-old high school student named Paul Wino hailed a taxi late at night. When they reached his destination, instead of paying, he pulled a knife and stabbed the 54-year-old driver repeatedly. He then dragged the body from the car and tried to drive away, but witnesses alerted police, who intercepted and arrested him minutes later. He later confessed to investigators that he had been playing Grand Theft Auto and simply wanted to know what hijacking a car felt like in real life. He showed no signs of intoxication or mental illness. He was convicted of murder and robbery, sentenced to life imprisonment, and Thai retailers pulled the game from shelves. Our final story takes us to Wellington, Ohio. On October 20th, 2007, 16-year-old Daniel Petrick argued with his parents after they confiscated his copy of Halo 3. They locked it in the safe because they believed he had become dangerously addicted to it. While his parents were out, Daniel discovered where the key was hidden, retrieving the game as well as his father's loaded pistol. When they returned, he confronted them, asked them to close their eyes for a surprise, and raised the pistol and fired. His mother, Susan, was killed instantly. His father, Mark, was shot in the head but survived. Daniel tried to frame him by placing the gun in his hand before fleeing and was later sentenced to prison 23 years to life.